Are you with us, TJ?
Hey, Mike, TJ Palese. Yes, sir.
You're a diehard fan. You went to Arkansas State, but you grew up in the New York area. Tell us about it.
I grew up in upstate New York. Yes, sir. Syracuse, New York. Went down to Arkansas State and played down there. And I don't like the cold, so I never came home, Mike.
I don't blame you for that.
I was a catcher and a third baseman.
Yeah.
I have no idea why I would DH occasionally because I couldn't hit.
As a catcher, let me ask you, when you saw Gary Sanchez and you saw what he was able to do late in the season last year, I think we all knew that he had the tools to be a prolific hitter. But were you surprised by him defensively behind the plate?
Mike, that was my biggest surprise. I knew he, as you said, we all knew the kid could hit. And I watched him in spring training, and I was not enamored or impressed at all with his defense. But he came up, and immediately he was throwing out runners and blocking pitches. And the way he handled the pitching staff, I thought he did a very, very good job. I think the kid's he's got a high ceiling back there behind the plate. He's going to be one of our big dogs, I believe.
I agree with that, TJ. Let me ask you a question. You might have heard my opening comments. When it comes to 2017, Yankee fans are split. Maybe even management might even be split. But what are your thoughts in terms of going for it in 2017 versus really kind of playing it more towards 2018 or maybe even 2019 to make a run?
Well, I think 18 and 19 are going to be big. But with that said, I think 17, we're going to make strides. I don't know if we're, the Red Sox, they picked up Sale, like you had mentioned earlier, and they made some moves. I thought we were going to be almost close to them, and then they picked up Sale. Now, with that said, I still think, I don't know if we're going to be able to compete actually for the division. But I think as everything went down last year with the nucleus of these young kids coming up, and with getting Holiday, and obviously, as you had mentioned, with Chapman, I think we're going to contend. Now, we get in that 88, 87, 88 win mark, I think we'd be a viable candidate to compete. I'd be disappointed if we didn't. I think we've definitely made a lot of the right moves overall with what we've got. And I think, everybody pokes at Cash, but and including myself, but I think overall with what he did at the trade deadline and what we've got right now, I think we're going to be an exciting ball club. I really do.
I agree with you. Well said. I guess I'll ask the question this way, or I'll make the comment, and then I want to get your opinion. What I look at is, when I look at this team, it seems eerily similar, in my opinion, in terms of the starting rotation to 2016 and even 2015. My concern going into 2017 is I'm a huge Masahiro Tanaka fan. But my concern is that torn UCL. And even with that, he put together a very, very, very solid year. But then when I look at Pineda, I'm losing patience with him. He's in his last year of his contract. Not only is his hat not screwed on straight, his head's not screwed on straight, and he is very much like Luis Severino, in my opinion. He's trying to do something that the Yankees should not allow. He's trying to be a two-pitch starter. Fastball, slider, slider, fastball. It doesn't work. And so I have concern there. Obviously, CeCe, I have concern. So what I'm trying to say is, I think the Yankees can compete, but I think they have to trade for a number 2 in that starting rotation and then slide everybody down. And you know what? I think we can make a run. I don't think we can do it without trading for a number 2, but I think we can if we do. Your thoughts?
I agree. Pineda, he's an enigma. I just don't know. He goes out there and it looks good, and then 3 other starts he throws clunkers. But and not to get off, but I agreed with what you indicated with Severino. I think he would be great setting up Betances and then going to Chapman. Pitching wise, we've got a lot of young young arms, and there's always that question mark. And like you had talked about the injury possibility with some of our older guys, I agree. I've thought we needed to get pitching from day one. I thought that was our biggest weakness last year, even after we retooled and got good there at the second half. I was looking, like Sonny Gray or Sean Manaea from the A's. I was just looking at some of those other younger guys that are affordable that maybe we could spring for, like Gardner, and make a trade with maybe some of those lower level prospects. I think we've got them. If those young kids like you mentioned, Mitchell and Cessna and Green, if they come on and excel, that would be something. But we do need another pitcher. I've believed that from the word go as well.
Well, interesting, the names that you threw out. I'm going to throw another name out. In fact, I wrote this on Twitter. I got some responses, and I wrote fire sale. That was my headline. And I wrote, now that the White Sox traded Chris Sale, are in the rebuild mode. I believe that the Yankees should be in on talks for Jose Quintana. Yeah, and I got some mixed reviews on that. One gentleman wrote back, "It's never going to happen. The Yankees are only, for 2017 salary dump, etc." But you know what? I think it can happen. And just as you said, I hear the name, and I believe that the Yankees are going to trade. It's just a feeling in my bones. I think the Yankees are going to trade Brett Gardner. I think where there's smoke, there's fire in this case. I've heard Brian Cashman mention his name a few too many times. Mm-hmm. And there's always a method to Brian Cashman's madness. When he mentions his name, it tends to happen. And you know what? I would be okay with that. The issue is, if you're going to trade him to a team that's rebuilding, they're not going to want him because, he's a now player. We understand that. But there's no saying, just as you said, you mentioned Sonny Gray, I mentioned Quintana. You know what? There's no saying you couldn't have a three-way trade. You take Brett Gardner, he's the number one piece. You trade him to a third team, Team X, a now team. They give you back 2 or 3 good, solid prospects. You take those prospects, you package them with the good young arms that we got, the flamethrowers for Brian McCann. And then you maybe, you start sprinkling in, some of the lesser prospects that we have, because we all know we don't want to give away Clint Frazier, Gleyber Torres. It starts going down the list. I think I would be willing to trade Jorge Mateo. I don't know about you, but I think I would. And he stole 82 bases on high A ball. And you know what? Some are comparing him to Jose Reyes.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely he's a top prospect for sure. But like you've mentioned earlier, you've got to give up something to get something. There's no doubt about that. So, and he is a higher end prospect. But
who would holding your feet to the fire, TJ? Play GM for a moment. You want to get, whether it's a Sonny Gray or something. I'll be honest with you. I like the lefty. I'll tell you why. There's something to be said for a left-handed pitcher at Yankee Stadium, because with all of the left-handed bats, kind of targeting the short porch and right. I like a lefty pitcher. We've never had a championship season without a top of the rotation, at least a number 1 or number 2 starter. And I think it's too much to expect from CeCe to be a top of the rotation guy. That's why I'm saying that. But regardless, holding your feet to the fire, make a deal. Who are you putting on the table to bring back a solid number 2?
Well, like you had mentioned.
I'll tell you what. Let me read off a couple, and then you tell me who you'd be willing. This is the way it's kind of ranked. Gleyber Torres is number 1. Then you got Clint Frazier. You got Jorge Mateo, Aaron Judge, Blake Rutherford, a very slick center fielder, a high school kid that we signed, a California kid. Justice Sheffield, left-handed pitcher with all the talent in the world. Andujar at third base. You hear a lot of good things about him. Domingo Acevedo, I saw this guy up close and personal with the Staten Island Yankees. I'll talk more about him later on. About James Caprillion, Dylan Tate. So if you had to make a deal, let's say you're going to take my idea and take Gardner and spin him off for prospects, who else are you adding to the pot?
Oh, I think Mateo and Rutherford and Acevedo would be definitely in that list. Yeah, obviously, we don't want to deal Frazier. I mean, I think he's one of the big ones we've got to keep.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I would not trade Gleyber Torres.
Oh no, I think he's the number one untouchable. I agree with you, 100%.
Yeah. Those two guys are the two guys that I would not want to deal. But I wouldn't have any problem trading any of those other guys if we could get Quintana or a Manea or a Gray. I mean, and like you stressed, you talked about the lefties. That's absolutely correct. Historically, you got Whitey Ford, Ron Guidry, Andy Pettit. I mean, you've got to have that lefty in there, and I think it's critical for us to have any chance at all.
You're right. I mean, as a matter of fact, and even CC Sabathia in 2009
right.
when we won the championship, we went into that postseason. We had a three-man rotation. We had CC Sabathia, Andy Pettit, right, and AJ Burnett. I mean, so basically that, and we won the World Series with a three-man rotation. That's not going to happen again because it was like there was a scheduling kind of thing where I don't think that's going to happen again. But the point being, 2 out of the 3 in the starting rotation were lefties. On a personal level, I think our fans would find it interesting to know that you are related to Kyle and Corey Seager. So if you can, just briefly, tell us how you're related to them.
Corey and Kyle and Justin, he's the third one. Their father is my cousin. We all grew up in New York. He's from Poughkeepsie, and he played ball at college at Farley Dickinson along with his brother Jerry. And of all of us boys that played college ball, Jeff was heads and shoulders above all of us. There was 4 of us, and it was destined, I think, with his children that they were going to be what they are. And it's just amazing. We go down to spring training out to Arizona, and we hang out with the Dodgers and we hang out with the Mariners. And there's like 12 or 13 of our family members that go out there for a whole week. And it's really nice because we get to spend time with them. Besides being at the ballpark, you go out there to be at the ballpark, but we get to have a lot of time because I don't get to see them as much as most families do. But we go out there, and then, of course, this year was just phenomenal for both of them. I was fortunate enough to go out to St. Louis and watch Corey play in 3 games, and I went to Texas and I went to Kansas City to watch Kyle. And, in fact, I even went to Jackson, along with my oldest son. We went to Jackson and watched Justy play. He was with the Generals for a few weeks, and we were able to get to see those guys play and then not play. So it was a lot of fun. And, of course, the big boys had really good seasons this year, as you know, with Corey getting the Rookie of the Year, and Kyle, I've always envisioned him playing third base for the Yanks, but unfortunately, it's not going to happen. I was hoping we would have gobbled him up about 5 years ago before he became the player he is. But
He's got.
But no, it's really, and this year was just such a thrill, Mike. Watching him, and I've got the MLB package, so I get to watch 3 ball games a night. I watch the Yankees play, and then I'm out on the left coast till midnight my time watching the other 2 guys play with the iPad and the TV. It's really, really nice to do that, and I get to text with his mom and dad while we're watching ball games, and it's a lot of fun.
That is awesome. You know what, TJ? Let me ask you this. I hear that Corey idolized Derek Jeter growing up. True?
Absolutely. Him and the whole family, because they're all Yankee fans, And, this kid, and I don't want to brag too much on him, but it's the truth. He's a great kid. And if anybody's going to get, you talk about Mike Trout, I say Mike Trout, Cal Ripken, and Derek Jeter, because he embodies all of their qualities, and he is a great kid. He's a really, really special kid.
He really is, and you know what? He's always got that smile on his face. We have a graphic up: 26 home runs, 72 RBIs, 308 batting average. And you know what? He's got that demeanor where he looks like he's enjoying himself, having fun, just like Jeter, always a smile on his face. And he looks like he's got the ice water running through his veins.
Well, he does. If he came up last year or the year before last and played, for the month of September, and he hit like 327. And there was so much pressure on him, Mike. I mean, he was a number one prospect. This is the thing that really impresses me, that he was the number one prospect, and he lived up to the billing. I mean, and it wasn't, not to downplay any of his other franchises, but he's on a big market, with the Dodgers, and for him to do the things he did, but he's still a kid, and he's still, he's not taking it all in. It's just, it really was amazing.